All right, welcome to the AAMC preview practice test. And this is going to be question 24. If you haven't done the question yet, definitely make sure to do the question before we kind of go through it here and use this practice exam really as a way to reflect on your own thought processes and what you did right and where you can improve. And yeah, I do think that's the best way to get the most out of these practice questions. I haven't said that little spiel in a while, but thought I'd throw it in here. And yeah, enough said. Let us jump into scenario 24. You are part of a team assigned to a group project. During your first group meeting, you and most of your team members discuss how you want to do extra work on the project in an effort to get a higher grade. However, one team member says they don't have time to do extra work during their due to their volunteer commitments. All right, so what's the main problem here? Well, the main problem is that your group wants to do extra work on the project, but one member doesn't think they can fit it in their schedule, and your group is unsure how to proceed. Most of your group wants to do extra work on the project, but one member doesn't think they can fit it in their schedule. And yeah, we're unsure on how to proceed, right? That's the real tension that we're faced with here. And remember, your teammates' concern and request to not do extra work, that's reasonable, right? And we also have to keep in mind, and this is super important, but keep in mind that this is a group project. And the AAMC loves to put you in these team situations on this test to ensure you're a good team player and can work well with others. So let's make sure to keep those ideals in mind as we go through these responses. All right. Response 1. Discuss with the team member their other commitments to understand what work they will be able to complete for the project. Okay. So let's start with, where we normally start, right? Our initial differentiation. All right. So are you taking steps to resolve or address the main problem? This question is the one we're going to be using primarily here, but we might jump around a little bit. But this one is often a good place to start. So, are we taking steps to resolve or address the main problem? Clearly, we are, right? Clearly, if the problem is we have this conflict, we're unsure how to proceed. Discussing with other team members about how to move through the situation is very good in addressing that problem, right? So I'm going to put this into a 3 or a 4. Just the level that addresses the problem, I know this is going to be either a 3 or a 4 response. All right, so how do we differentiate between a 3 and a 4? Are we finding a compromise for the problem? And in the sense of this conflict, right, we are taking steps to figure out a compromise that will allow each person to put into the conversation what work they'll be able to do. So that's a pretty good compromise. How are we impacting any relevant stakeholders? Well, clearly, when we hold this discussion, every person in our team, in our group, will be able to give their input in therefore the conclusion you will come to, everyone's input is respected. Furthermore, are we prioritizing teamwork? Clearly we are, right? Discussing as a team, it's a very teamwork orientated solution. Another really important question here is, are we being open to conversation? Well, the first verb, right, is discuss. And that's clearly we're acting in a way that respects everyone's opinions and we're being open to conversation. Pretty much if you go down this list, right? And are we offering a solution to the main problem? Well, the main problem is, we don't really know how to proceed. So this is offering that solution because it'll let us figure out how to proceed. Nonetheless, if we go through all those questions, most, if not all, tend to give us a understanding that this will be a very effective response that will improve our situation significantly. All right. Let's move on to 24.2. Oh, once again, discuss as a team which parts of the project each person is able to complete, right? Discuss. We see this verb again, right? So before we go there, are we addressing the main problem? Yeah, we're addressing the main problem, right? Much like the last response, we don't know how to proceed. This is going to get us to a point where we do know how to proceed. All right, so differentiate between a 3 and a 4. You can go back and look through. We can pull it up here. As we read through all these questions and apply them to our scenario here, clearly we are, just like the last question, we're embodying these ideals of teamwork, being open to conversation, and addressing the main problem of being unsure how to proceed. This is going to make me confident that this is also a 4 answer, right? And remember, they're putting you in the situation to assess your ability to work on a team. And this is a very teamwork orientated solution, right? It only makes me more confident that this is going to be a 4 answer. All right. 24.3. So, All right. Suggest the team assign the team member fewer tasks to accommodate their schedule. Okay, so are we, right off the bat, we can kind of tell we're not taking as much of a teamwork oriented solution, right? We're really taking the reins and offering a solution. But nonetheless, are we addressing the main problem of being unsure how to proceed and, this conflict between our team member and the other and our team's goals? Clearly we are, right? We're offering some sort of solution, and it's a reasonable solution because if they can do less work, then assign them fewer tasks, right? So it's reasonable on its face, and it's addressing the main problem. I'm going to put this into a 3 and 4. So how do we differentiate? Once again, now as we go through these questions, we can see there's a little bit more friction, right? For example, how are we impacting relevant stakeholders? Well, one could say that the team members who are open to do the extra work, it's kind of unfair, right? That they're going to have to do less work. They're going to have to do more work. And this team member is going to have to do less work simply because, they have other volunteer commitments, right? That, one could say that that's a little bit, not as fair to the other team members if everyone's getting the same grade. Also, another important thing that we kind of touched on before is we're not prioritizing teamwork and being as open to conversation as we were in the last answer. Why is that? Well, we're kind of speaking on behalf of our other group members. Not only of the group members who want to do extra work, right? We're speaking on behalf of them by coming up with this solution of giving the team member fewer tasks, but we're also speaking on behalf of the teammate, right? The central team member with the volunteer commitments. Maybe they don't want to do fewer tasks, they just want to do different tasks. Or, although we are offering a solution, we're kind of jumping to one and delegating to a point, and definitely doing this before we hear the other team members' opinions and really more about the situation. Because we're kind of jumping to this answer, it doesn't embody those ideals of teamwork, of being open to conversation as effectively. And because of that, it's less likely to improve the situation, right? Which makes this a 3 response. It's less likely to address this main problem as the last 2 questions, really, because it kind of doesn't, you're taking a bit too powerful of a role before really understanding the full nature of what's going on. A discussion really is important here to be able to really get at solving this main problem most effectively. And, this is still a very effective, not a very effective, this is still an effective response, right? It still lies on a 3 or a 4 because it does address that main problem. It just fails to cross that threshold of being a 4 response because, it kind of compromises that discussion a little bit and the teamwork, and you're kind of jumping to a conclusion. All right. 24.4. Tell the team member that if they don't do enough work on the project, you will tell the instructor. All right, so, we can ask the question, are we addressing the main problem? Now, if you see the main problem as trying to get the best grade, you might be tempted to see this as addressing that. But the main problem is not to figure out, how to make our teammate do more work or get the best grade on the project. That's not the main problem, right? The main problem is to figure out how to work with our teammates in order to resolve this conflict. Now, that framing is really, really key, because the AAMC didn't make this test to put you in a scenario to test, how you would get the best grade on this group project, right? They put you in the scenario to see how well you can work with others. This response, it doesn't really work with others at all. It's rather rude, right? And it does that, and it doesn't work with others to address the conflict and main problem of how you can work together as a team to address and get over this, right? Just by the phrasing of it, we can tell it's going to be a 1 and 2. And that's really important, right? Because a 1 or a 2, once we get here, we can clearly tell, okay, we're not offering a solution, right? That works with others, which is the main thrust of this problem. We are precluding further discussion for sure, because we're blackmailing our team member. We're being very disrespectful and rude. We're not being open to conversation. We're just being, this is about as non-teamwork of a response as you can get. So, and it's being very rude, right? So this is definitely a 1 answer. And that framing is key. The goal is not to get the best grade on this exam. The goal is to work together as a team. And a solution embodying that goal will lead us to effective answers, right? All right. 24.5. Suggest a team member ask the instructor for a new team that agrees with their approach to the project. Okay, we can kind of go on this same thought process as we did the last one, right? We are not working as a team, right, to solve this problem. We are really, if you go back to a 1 or a 2, we are being very rude to our teammate. We're not entertaining any type of solution that could come up. And the request is reasonable, right? This is incredibly rude and dismissive. It also just outwardly disengages from finding a solution, right? This is also a 1 response. This is also a 1 response. Remember, this whole question is about teamwork and how you can work together as a team to overcome this conflict. All right. Ask your team member if they can adjust their volunteer commitments to make time for this project. All right, so are we addressing the main problem? I would say we're giving some solution, right? It kind of reminds me of 24.3, where we are jumping to an idea, but at least we're given a solution, and it's a reasonable request. So I'm going to put this into a 3 or a 4. So how do we differentiate between a 3 and a 4? Well, we kind of alluded, right? The reason why we made 24.3 an effective answer instead of a very effective answer, because it kind of compromised a little bit some of these ideals of being open to conversation and teamwork. And once again, we can see in this question, we are asking our team members if they can adjust their volunteer commitments before really understanding how they would like to help and what they could do to help, and really having a discussion, a conversation, and working together as a team where we're asking them to compromise their other commitments before really knowing how they can help, right? And before you know how you can help, and before you have that discussion, asking them to compromise their volunteer commitments is burdening them to a degree that could have been avoided, right? And we have that question right here. Are you burdening any relevant stakeholders, right? Because we are, burdening them to that extent, this is going to be a 3 response. We're just jumping the gun a little bit. We should really just have a discussion first to understand what their commitments are, and instead of asking them. And it's still an effective or very effective. It's still on this effective side of the scale, particularly because it does address the problem. We could just do that a little bit better. We can just embody those ideals of teamwork, of open conversation, and really seeing how they can help before asking them to do that. That's why that was a effective answer. All right, there we go. Yeah, that was question 24. I know we moved a bit quick, but if you have any questions, if you want me to explain anything a little bit further, I would be more than happy to in the comments. Just let me know. And yeah, that was it. I will see y'all for question 25.